Sunday.
Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And joining us now is Deedra Abbuod, who is running as a Democrat and will face Kyrsten Sinema in the Democratic primary. I want to thank you very much for joining us. And I guess the first question a lot of people might want to know is why jump into this high-profile race? You've never held office before, and you're challenging somebody who is really well-known in political circles here in Arizona, in Kyrsten Sinema. Why do it, and what separates you from the perceived front-runner in this race?
Thank you for having me, and that's a lot.
Yes.
But I actually jumped in April of 2017 when Flake was still going to run, as far as we knew. So my expectation was not to run against another Democrat in a primary, but you know, once I was in it and decided that my job was to raise the expectation for this office, that we need to have our U.S. senators visiting all 15 counties. We need to be out and have public events where anyone can attend and ask us questions, and we need to talk about the things that really matter, and that's what we're doing in this campaign. Yeah,
and we were chatting just really briefly before we started taping here. I asked you how the campaign was going. You said you're changing the conversations a lot. What kind of conversations are you changing out there? What kind of conversations are you having with people you're meeting on the campaign?
There's a lot that's going on with that too. I mean, we're changing the conversations about what matters to Arizonans. We're actually talking about all of the issues rather than just the convenient ones that seem that they're non-controversial. Facing things head on, talking about white supremacy in the United States, talking about what the roles of women are in political office, whether or not we can talk about women and their views and their ability to lead the country in different ways rather than just what they're wearing every day when they get up in the morning.
And that's interesting. You bring up the issue of white supremacy. What are you telling people? How do you see that right now as a campaign issue?
It's something that we have to talk about. It's not talking about it. It's acting like it's just a fringe element or that it doesn't affect people's lives. That actually is dangerous. We need to have a conversation as a society and decide whether or not that's who we are or whether we reject it as a society. And that's something that we haven't done in a long time.
I gotcha. And now I do want to point this out too. I mean, obviously you are Muslim, and that's created quite a bit of attention. You've gotten a lot of negative responses from some of that, particularly on social media. And I want to read a couple of posts from that you know, that definitely very disturbing and bigoted, to say the least. Now, one of them said, you know, told you to, quote, get out, stinking Muslim. Another one said, quote, ban Islam in the USA. We hate your filthy death cult. And, you know, another one says, how about go blank yourself, towel-headed piece of blank. What do you think when you read this stuff on social media? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse as this campaign has progressed?
It's definitely gotten better. A lot of those comments came from people in other states, so they don't represent Arizona. And we actually need to bring that to light as well, that you can talk to other people that way. And honestly, we got that, Muslims and other marginalized groups get that whether we're running for political office or not. So I use my platform to actually face it and talk about it, stand up to it, and also show that we're not going to be intimidated by it.
Yeah, and do you get confronted with any of these people at any campaign events here in Arizona? What's that experience like?
We've had several, because all of our events are public. They're on our website for everyone to see, so anyone can come. They're also on our social media. We've had some white nationalists come and try to disrupt our events. We've had some that came and just wanted to do accusations, but we engage them because in the end they are also members of Arizona, members of the United States, and if you're running for office, you should be able to engage both people who hate you and people who love you at the same respect level.
Okay, now I want to move on to the issue of immigration. You know, you've advocated for a path to citizenship. Explain a little bit more, and more importantly, maybe explain the differences between yourself and your primary opponent.
I'm an immigration attorney, so I actually see firsthand how much our immigration system affects families. And the biggest thing, I think, is that I actually speak about it. I don't just speak that, you know, we need to not tear families apart, but I actually speak about we shouldn't be housing children in detention centers away from their parents, particularly when they tried to enter the country legally and seek asylum. And we want to punish them and deter future people from asking for asylum from the United States, which used to be the beacon of hope for people all around the world. I speak out on those issues. And that's what we have to do. If you want to be an elected leader, you have to speak out about what's going on in the world.
Well, talk to us about, your challenger. She's been in Congress now. Of her voting record on immigration has raised some eyebrows on certain votes. What do you think about your opponent's voting record on this issue?
I think the biggest obstacle that voters have is that our elected leaders are not explaining what the bills mean and why they're voting a certain way. That's a disrespect for voters. And voters, we're treating them like they're ATM machines instead of they're actually voting board members, and we need to show them the respect of explaining what's going on instead of just assuming that they're going to vote for us because of the team jersey we're wearing. Gotcha.
But have you been pleased? Would you give her a good rating on how she's voted, Kyrsten Sinema, on immigration since she's been in Congress?
And my reading is no. I mean, for example, Kate's law was just a gift to the private prison industry.
And explain that a little bit more and why you think that.
So Kate's law basically was an enhancement. Someone who got a conviction for a felony that would have gotten 0 to 5 years in prison now gets 10 to 15 in private prisons, where we pay to house, feed, and clothe them before we deport them instead of just deporting them from the beginning.
And now, the current administration has got this policy where they are separating parents from their children once they reach the border. How, unless the Democrats can take back the Senate, can take back Congress or whatnot, how do you put the president in check and stop these kinds of policies?
People are tired of a government that is thriving on chaos. What they expect from our elected leaders is to be a calm within the storm. If we would respect voters enough to explain to them what's going on, they could be an asset. They could help support us to make sure to hold all the elected leaders accountable, not just on election day, but every day.
All right, now let's move on to health care. Obviously, always an important issue with voters out there. Now, you've advocated for a single payer system. Well, explain that and explain who's going to pay for this, how much it's going to cost.
Every industrialized country in the world has figured out how to let their society invest in their health care. So this is not about letting people have something for free. This is about letting people have affordable payments into a system that's based on their health rather than profit.
Okay, and obviously a lot of Democrats have felt really, confident heading into this election. There appears to be this, people have talked about this blue wave, but when you look at the numbers out there, when you look at the economic numbers out there, I believe that the unemployment is now under 4%. What is the argument then that they should be putting Democrats in office instead of Republicans?
Number one, the number of people who are unemployed, that figure doesn't include people who are no longer looking, who have given up, or who can't have a job. Number two, I don't think that we just need to put Democrats in office or Republicans in office. We need to put people in office who are transparent, who are willing to be held accountable, who are willing to talk to voters and explain their positions. We need to start voting for people we can believe in, because voters will vote for someone that they believe because they understand the positions, even if they disagree with the positions, over people that they can't believe because they have no idea. Okay, and last question. We got about 30 seconds left here. If you were elected to the U.S. Senate, what's the first bill that you would introduce, first action you take? First action I have committed to take by contract is that we need to dismantle Citizens United, because Citizens United allows people to put in dirty money, dark money, without any transparency, and we as humans have to be transparent and have limits, and corporations don't. And I apologize, one more question here. A lot of Democrats are being asked this too, so I'll ask you, would you support the impeachment proceedings if the Democrats were able to take back Congress? That is a responsibility of Congress, and particularly U.S. Senate. So if we are given information, if we are giving proof, it is our moral responsibility to hold any elected leader, including the president, accountable. So impeachment proceedings, yes, no? If we have the evidence, we do, and it appears that that may be the case, and I would do it with pleasure, because that's what you're supposed to do when you're an elected leader. All right. Well, thank you very much for stopping by here. That's all the time we have, but we do have more Politics Unplugged. Coming up just ahead, we will talk to one candidate for mayor of Phoenix. We'll find out why she believes she is the right person to lead the nation's 5th largest city. And 2 Republican candidates for Senate here in Arizona try to convince voters they are the president's choice, here on Politics Unplugged.
From celebrities to children to professional athletes, the video game that's wreaking havoc on lives because they just can't stop playing.
I would say it's kind of like drugs, how you just get addicted to smoking, you just get addicted to playing all the time.
Fortnite, hooking players of all ages.
If you're a parent and you just absolutely say, I'm going to take you off of it cold turkey, it can be dangerous.
The warning signs and conversations parents need to have before letting their kids log on. Thursday at 9, only on 3TV.
Tell her you'd marry her all over again. The Jewelry Exchange has stackable bands, $99, half carat, $2.99, princess, $5.90, 1 carat marquise, $7.90, and 2 carat platinum, $39.90. Thousands of bands guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange, Phoenix.
Summer is here. It's time to relax and take it easy.
The only thing easier than this would be to call Express Flooring.
Call today for free in-home shopping, plus huge savings up to 63% on carpet, tile, wood, laminate, and vinyl plank, including pet and stain-resistant flooring. Pay no interest until 2020.
I mean, what's easier than that?
All backed by our lifetime installation warranty. Express Flooring is the best. Call 800-EXPRESS.
A long time ago, I was in an accident, and I dealt with insurance companies by myself. I was ping-pong back and forth between people, not getting calls back, not getting responses, and it was a total nightmare. Don't call the insurance company. Call Lerner & Rowe.
Call 977-1900.
Lyons Roofing has been serving Arizona homeowners with pride since we were a cub back in 1983. And now, we're proud to be a part of Arizona's family with the Lyons Roofing News Chopper. If you're looking for a roofing contractor you can roar about, give us a call or visit us online. Lyons Roofing, fiercely protecting Arizona homes for 25 years.
Breakfast, teeth brushed, hair done, toys, preschool. We work all day, making dinner, hide and seek, laundry, pajamas on. It's chaos. All the time. I would have a lot of knee trouble and then a lot of lower back pain. Then I found Good Feet since I've had my arch supports. They've really changed my life. The ability to be active all of the time. They're huge. They were really life-altering for me. I'm Sabrina, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Wake up with a smile. Good Morning Arizona. Weekdays on 3TV.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged and more from the campaign trail tonight. We turn our attention to the city of Phoenix. Mayor Greg Stanton has resigned to run for Congress, and joining us now, one of the candidates who would like to replace him, Phoenix City Councilwoman Kate Gallego. Thank you very much for being here today.
Good to be back.
Obviously, Phoenix is a fast-growing city, fifth largest city in the country. What do you see as the top issue facing the city right now when you walk in? If you were to win, what's the top issue you need to tackle?
We've come out of the recession. We're in a great place, and now we need to think about economic development, what kind of city we want to become, and what kind of jobs we need to have.
Is that an affordable city? Because a lot of people are talking. You've seen rents rise. We see, high-priced condos in the city core. Housing is going up. It's becoming increasingly harder for average families to make a living and afford to live in the city.
And there's a lot that the city can do to support that. We don't have every tool that other cities in the nation have. We are in Arizona, which is the first state in the country to preempt cities from requiring affordable housing. So we have to incentivize it. Part of the way you do that is just making it easy to do business, making sure that as people are building housing, the city's helps and is not a hurdle. Yeah. So I've worked a lot to make sure we process permits quickly, that we have the staff that's trained to help you build a safe, affordable housing. But we can also do some creative things to incentivize it.
I was going to say, do you think there's enough affordable housing in the city right now?
So the city is a pretty significant landowner, including a lot of vacant land. I chair the Finance and Housing Subcommittee, so I'm trying to put those two together and take city-owned land and try to develop affordable housing. Next week at our next council meeting, we have a great partnership with a nonprofit called Trellis. We're going to work with them on city-owned land in the Garfield neighborhood, which is very close to the downtown. They're going to take what's vacant land that's blight in the neighborhood and build affordable housing. It'll be housing for people making about $50,000 a year for a family of 4. So it's based on the area median income. Workforce housing right by our downtown. And that's my vision of what we can do. We're also working on our public housing as well. I've gone to DC, and I think we should hear this month on a $30 million grant to help us revitalize housing.
Yeah, and that kind of you bring up the Garfield district. Now, you know, for years, a lot of, that was, a tougher area town, high crime rate, but we've seen that those areas and other neighborhoods around there change a lot, and some people would say it's being gentrified, and they worry that it's changing the character of the city. What do you think?
So you can still rent a one-room apartment in Garfield for $600 a month. That's incredibly affordable compared to the cities with which we compete, like San Francisco. Oh, yeah. So there's a good story there. I think the work that I'm doing on those single-family houses will also help because it's income qualified. It'll make sure we still have a diverse population. But there's no doubt that we have medical students who are going to be future successful leaders of this community in Garfield, living right next to people who are struggling. But that's one of the things I love about Phoenix. We're incredibly diverse, and we're welcoming, and we bring people together.
Okay, and so let's talk one more issue too, because the city has been criticized in the past for giving out too many incentives to economic developers and stuff like that. You've brought up that you got to come up with some incentives to be able to get more economic growth and whatnot. Do you think though that the city in the past has given up too much to developers, particularly with the home builders and people like that?
So I worked in economic development before I ran for living. I worked in economic development before I ran for office.
Sure.
So this is an area that I think about a lot, and it's very important to me, an area where I'd put a lot of focus. Again, we don't have a lot of the tools legally in Arizona that are open to the other communities with which we compete. So we have to be creative. We've really tried to build our downtown. When I talk to people, they're impressed with how much growth we've had. And when I moved to downtown in 2006, you could, at 10 o'clock at night, cross any major street without seeing anyone.
It has definitely changed a whole lot. One of the things that has changed all of that is light rail, and I want to talk to you a little bit, about that, because there's some concerns. The city is talking about putting up more light rail. They're moving ahead with expanding some of that, but a lot of folks, and I'm going to play some sound here in a second, a lot of folks say that they're not happy with that. They're worried about what it's going to do to traffic and their quality of life. I want to play a little bit of what they had to say and get your reaction to that right now.
It's 2 weeks in a row that we've heard from community that they're actually moved on and feel like they don't need the light rail, that there's a lot more things that South Phoenix needs that is not the light rail. Better buses, better stops, fixing transportation as it is.
Now that was about they were talking about the expansion of light rail into South Phoenix. Now you've supported this, correct?
I supported it, and I still support it. It's a great project that will be very important to the people in my community. It will also go through the South Central area where we have much of our public housing. These are folks, many of whom who don't have a car in Phoenix. I think that sometimes there's folks who believe everyone has 2 cars in a garage in Phoenix. We have a lot of people in our community who are transit dependent. The light rail will also go through the warehouse district, which has been one of our fastest growing areas for tech and creative companies. They employ a lot of college graduates who could go anywhere in the country, and they want transportation options. They don't necessarily want to be stuck in the car. They want to be able to bike, to walk, or to take light rail. There's not a lot of parking in the warehouse district. These are warehouses that were built for agriculture, just to store, and now they're homes of more than 100 startups. We don't have places to park all of those employees. We'd have to bulldoze historic buildings or tell them to go elsewhere. Light rail will give us a huge economic engine.
Now I want to talk to you about this too. The Supreme Court handed down a ruling in that Masterpiece cake case. Now this was the baker in Colorado. He'd refused to bake a cake for a gay couple. Now the ruling specifically focused on what it saw in Colorado as being antagonistic to religion. Have you said, and you have said, that Phoenix needs to review its own law? Why?
So what I actually have good news on that front. Yesterday, the Court of Appeals made a decision in what we call the brush and nib case. The City of Phoenix has a non-discrimination ordinance which says that you cannot discriminate on a variety of factors, including gender, disability status, against our LGBT community. That's incredibly important to us. We need to be a welcoming city that says everyone is welcome here and respected. I'm a strong supporter of that ordinance and have been a strong supporter as it's gone through the court system. The same folks who did the legal challenge in Colorado are also suing the City of Phoenix. And I've said we have to defend it. Yesterday, the Court of Appeals agreed with us. The City of Phoenix ordinance is responsible and should continue to protect our citizens.
And last question, why should a Phoenix voter vote for you instead of an opponent like yours, like Danny Valenzuela, your colleague on the council, who's also running for this seat?
I have a unique background that makes sense for the challenges Phoenix faces right now. I worked in economic development, so I can help us build a diverse economy with high-wage jobs. I've also worked in important areas like water rights. We are facing a drought on the Colorado River that really could impact Phoenix and all of Arizona. Having someone in the mayor's office with that professional expertise will mean a lot to the future of Arizona.
All right, thank you very much. That's all the time we have for this segment. We're going to have to take a quick break, but we'll have more Politics Unplugged just ahead. We'll check in with our panel next.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax.com, I got $1,400.
$3,200.
TitleMax.com got me $9,700.
Best of all, most credit types are approved. Next time you need cash, try TitleMax for rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying, I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
Here at Window World, we provide the best quality windows and doors for the lowest price. You see, Window World windows are made with double the UV protection of most other vinyl windows. Plus, we exclusively offer Solar Zone Sun Shield glass with a 0.14 SHGC rating. That's Window Nerd Talk for the highest UV protection and heat-resistant glass available.
I couldn't believe it. I'd stayed in my room, and it was so hot in there. Now that that's in there, it's nice. It is so cool to the touch.
Window World gave us the top value and top quality for our money, and the service has been first class.
Get 6 large premium sliding windows, plus a new sliding patio door, all with Solar Zone Sunshield glass. Installed, tax included, for one complete low price of only $4,650. Or get 7 premium slim frame windows installed for only $36.50. Call today at 602-357-0905. That's 602-357-0905.
Window World, simply the best.
For definitely less.
Never having been in a car accident, I had zero idea what I was doing. So Learn and Row kind of took that responsibility of mine and helped guide me through that whole legal process. I highly recommend Learn and Row to anyone who's been in a car accident.
Call 977-1900.
Summer is stay and play time here in the Valley. I'm Suzanne Bissett. This Wednesday on Your Life Arizona will feature the fabulous Phoenician.
Newly renovated, the Phoenician is Arizona's premier luxury resort destination. It's here that you and your family can relax in one of their gorgeous pools, splash around in their kids zone, or work out in their state-of-the-art athletic club. So join us Wednesday at 10 on Your Life Arizona for a closer look at Arizona's premier staycation destination.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It's now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic, Marcus Dellartino and Lori Roberts, columnist for the Arizona Republic. Oops, sorry about that.
Not that I don't love her, but...
Not partners. So let's start with the first question here, where you saw the conversation we had with Deedra Abbuod. Lori, I want to ask you, first of all, what did you think of that interview, and do you think she is changing the shape of this race at all, given the fact that, we've seen the cinema campaign just dominate with the media, with the airwaves and the ads?
Respectfully, no. I admire her for putting herself on the line. I admire anybody who puts themselves on the line and subjects themselves to people like me. But this is Kyrsten Sinema all the way for the Democrats. They've got a viable candidate who has a good shot of winning a seat in first time in 3 decades. I really think it's Kyrsten's.
But Kyrsten's been having some problems with the progressives, the grassroots of the party, right? Could this give her any kind of a headache?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you are seeing her campaign play out almost perfectly right now. She's got more money than you can shake a stick at. And she's been able to define herself well before the Republicans have been able to define her, and certainly before her primary opponent can define her. And so from that aspect, I think she's well ahead in the game.
All right, let's move on to the other side of the aisle there in this Senate race, and this is kind of a strange one. It says, according to quotes obtained by the Arizona Republic, we're talking about Kelly Ward. She's one of the Republican candidates in the Senate race. She says that the President Trump had actually told her, he should have endorsed her instead of that other guy, which he called a fool, and they're talking about John McCain when she ran against him in 2016. And she claimed that Trump actually, also said, I think if I would have endorsed you, you would have won. What do you think about this? Do you take this at face value? Do you think she's telling the truth here?
No. He certainly has had ample opportunity to rectify his mistake if, in fact, he felt like he should have endorsed her 2 years ago. He's had the last 2 years, because she's been running forever, to endorse her this time, and he hasn't. That tells me something.
And do you think that an endorsement in this primary, do you think that will be coming from the president at this point? I mean, it seems like this year so far he's been really kind of hesitant to really jump into the primaries.
To the president's past statement, I mean, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, it'd be Christmas every day, right? So whatever he's talking about is insignificant in today's landscape and how that race goes. I think the president, quite frankly, is caught in a quandary. He's got Joe Arpaio, who he pardoned and was friends with prior to becoming president and was his chairman. I mean, and the two are just synonymous almost at this point. And Kelly Ward, who, if you're listening to her explanation, obviously he likes. I expect him to stay out of this race, quite frankly.
I expect him to stay out of it, too, but for a very different reason. He's endorsed several candidates who have gone on and not won, and that's a pretty big embarrassment, showing a lack of any sort of coattails. I think he will stay out of it simply because he doesn't know who's going to win it.
And it seems like all three candidates, at least in the Republican side, they're trying to be the, most Trumpiest, I guess, And Martha McSally has been taking a lot of heat for that. They have said that she has flip-flopped and moving far to the right, particularly on immigration, when she flip-flopped on the DREAM Act. I mean, Lori, who is the most Trumpiest in this race?
Well,
and does that help?
Well, the Trumpiest has to probably be Kelly Ward, but I will say in her defense, or to her, that at least she has been consistent all the way through. Back when she was in the legislature, she was a far right-wing person. She continues to be that person. McSally has been sort of a disappointment, not because of her stance, but because her stance has shifted. In this past week, we saw her actually remove a video in which, I think it was a year or so old, in which she expressed support for DACA students. Now she's just taken it off her website. Do you stand for something or don't you? Or does it shift depending on what your ambition is?
Gotcha. Let's move on to another interesting congressional race. We've seen some interesting developments now with David Schweikert. He now appears to be under investigation by the Ethics Committee for some questionable expenses there. Don't want to get into the details of that, but is this something that puts that Republican seat in play for Democrats? Because we haven't seen a lot of attention given to this race.
Right, and if you remember last week, we briefly talked about the subject. I think it becomes an issue for him in this context, and that is if there was a deal cut in between Congressman Schweikert and the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, about when this news would be released, because ironically it was released after the deadline to file petitions in that race, meaning nobody could run against him when this news became public. If there was some sort of deal cut there, then I think it becomes an issue in that race. Barring that, and if he is cleared in the ethics investigation, depending on how that letter is written, I don't think it'll be an issue for him. It's a fairly safe Republican district.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that. I don't think that anybody really understands exactly what the issue is as it relates to the congressman. His chief of staff, a little different set of circumstances.
All right, Laura, I want to ask you, let's go down to the State House, and I want to ask you about, former state representative, former state lawmaker Don Shooter. He was obviously the first lawmaker to be kicked out of the legislature in 45 years, I believe. Apparently he's coming back. He filed a signature. Is your reaction to all this?
Well, he says he was pretty good at the job, and so he wants it back. And I can't really find fault with that. I mean, at least he has always stood true to, what he stands for. I don't expect him to win.
Yeah. Is the registration going to be a problem because he registered to vote in Phoenix?
Well, there's a couple issues. I mean, first of all,
we only got time for one.
He's not the only guy that's running in that race, so the dynamics are interesting. But there isn't that political problem as he's not registered.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for Politics Unplugged tonight. Be sure to join us next week. Good night.